My dad influenced me a lot, the way I dress, about classic things, my tastes in menswear, vintage accessories. Nowadays, there are many whiskeys from all around the world. A lot of them are very good. I'm still a huge fan of Scotch, basically. For me, I think single malt gives a sort of complexity, sort of a stronger flavor as well, something that I really like. I think this is quite interesting. I think obviously when people think about image of a classic man from the 40s or 50s, it's always some gentleman in a suit holding a glass of whiskey and a cigar. So I don't know whether it is that image that sort of imprinted in my head. Naturally, all of those elements goes quite well. An element of heritage and craft involves. I think what I like about whiskey, it feels like a very masculine drink. It's quite difficult to explain. I suppose my late father was a lot older. He always spoke to me about like old film stars, movies, or old directors. So, I kind of grew up watching a lot of old movies. Maybe one of the reasons why I like vintage things, or I'm sort of drawn to the aesthetics and older era. My dad was very active in the 60s, and I think he was considered as one of the first Hong Kong fashion icon. I think 60s is age of liberation, breaking from the old tradition. The 60s is famous for the Beatles, Elvis Presley. The one thing in common they all have is they like to break tradition, basically act out of the box, daring to act different. I think that's something that's quite interesting.
Well, I think my initial interest in art definitely was drawn by my family. So I grew up with a very beautiful aesthetic where they would meticulously rotate their collections, and I would be surrounded by very tasteful settings. I find that it's always a very fascinating balance between investment and curatorial in art, because being able to appreciate the aesthetics and art history while balancing the investment potential and outlook of each artist gives me great pleasure to combine the two. Well, in art, my focus is contemporary, so post-war to contemporary, and there were a few themes which I particularly like. Geometric abstraction, minimalism is a very important era in art history, which I think has been overlooked. Well, in the 60s, I think everybody's favorite is the pop art. So Andy Warhol, Roy Lichtenstein. I guess minimalism kind of overlapped. So that's one of my major focus areas. I love Dan Flavin, Solo Witt, Donald Judd. Simple forms and shape that are inspired by architecture, urbanization, but also speaks to the very spirit of art with nothing and minimalism. I love whiskey. I have some older vintage whiskey for everyday drinking. I don't dare to drink those yet. Maybe safe for some special occasion.